ball position, ball position. Where should the ball be positioned in my stance? It sometimes causes a lot of confusion with golfers. Let's try to simplify it. Okay, so the easiest way to go about remembering this is that for your shorter clubs, sand wedge, pitching wedge, 9-iron, ideally you want to have that ball somewhere between middle, maybe middle back in your stance, and as you work your way into lower lofted and longer clubs, you want to ever so slightly start moving that ball position from the middle of your stance up to the front of your stance. Okay, nothing else changes. Your setup position, your grip, stance, posture, alignment, they all stay the same. All we're going to do is ever so slightly change that ball position based on the loft and the length of the club. So let's take a look at what this looks like. So I've got a couple balls here. One of them represents the middle of my stance. The other one basically represents the front of my stance. And I've got 4 different clubs of varying loft and varying length. So starting with the shortest, highest lofted club, my pitching wedge, I'm basically going to have that ball positioned middle to maybe middle back of my stance. Now I'm going to switch to a 7-iron. So a 7-iron is a little bit longer and has a little bit less loft. So all I'm going to do now is just have that ball position be a little bit farther forward in my stance. As I move to a 4-iron, a little longer, a little less loft, I'm going to have that ball positioned a little bit further forward in my stance. And by the time I get all the way to my driver, least amount of loft in my bag, now I'm going to have that ball positioned up near the front of my stance. Okay, so you notice when I set those clubs down, my grip, stance, posture never changed. The only thing that's changing is where do I have the ball positioned, anywhere between middle back to forward in my stance, depending on the length and the loft of the club. And having that ball position further forward in your stance, like we do for a driver, gives us a little bit more time and space for that club face to square up. If it's too far back in our stance, we're going to have that club face open. And if I'm a right-handed golfer, that means the ball is going right. But if I give myself a little more time and space by having that ball positioned near the front of my stance, now I can let that club face square up and I have a better chance of hitting the ball solid and straight. Hope that helps. Thanks.